everyone, welcome to Simplilearn's YouTube channel. My name is Raneem Rashid and I'm a blockchain trainer at Simplilearn, and we do provide trainings in terms of blockchain development and application and architecture. Before starting our today's session, just please make sure that you subscribe and hit the like button for the video so that you don't miss any update from us. So today's topic that we will be discussing is about how do you become a blockchain developer, and it's one of the most frequently asked questions that I have encountered as well from most of the people coming from different backgrounds. It's not only from only technical, for only people from coming from technical side, but also someone from a very different industry, and they are quite interested in joining the blockchain domain in terms of how they can build something that can change the whole game of how we do the transactions and these things. So we are going to discuss a little bit about what could be the kind of steps or what could be the ways that you can be a blockchain developer. And before going into the discussion of what are the ways for that, first we must need to understand who is a blockchain developer itself, because there are quite different terms that being used. Like some of you maybe have heard about smart contract engineer or blockchain engineer or blockchain developer. So these are different terms that's being used interchangeably. So along with it, we must need to know the main understanding and the terms that are being used and what is the meaning of being a blockchain developer. So moving forward, we are going to discuss a kind of what could be a type of blockchain developers, on which side you can focus, and then you are going to explore some of the steps that how you can become and how you can be planning your journey to become a blockchain developer as your career. So we'll be moving forward in terms of also just exploring a little bit about the market. There was the salary range that's being provided and a kind of, you can say, obstacles that is for someone who wants to learn blockchain development or who wants to learn this technology. So this is a kind of our whole agenda that what we will be discussing in our today's session. So first of all, let me first move forward with the kind of questions that who is a blockchain developer. So initially, what I would say, whenever you want to achieve something or whenever you plan to get yourself into as a part of your career, as a part of your next role, first of all, you should understand some of the questions and you should ask yourself a few questions: who, what, and why you want to be to be that position. So that's very important. First of all, you do try to understand who you want to be, like who is a blockchain developer, who is a kind of position that you are looking for. Then what are the ways to become that specific professional in the market, and then why also you should know that why you are looking forward to be yourself, be a part of this industry or be a part of this domain. That's quite very important questions that you should ask yourself, not going to answer anyone, but ask yourself and satisfy yourself with these answers. The reason is that is going to compose your whole goal or whole motivation for the for your whole career journey. In the terms, let's say if you know that why you are planning to be a blockchain developer, what is your reason to be in this industry, what is your main motivation, you will be stayed on the whole track and you can plan these things in a real way, or you can say in a kind of, you will have some timeline that you wanted to achieve, that you wanted to be in this domain. So make sure that you do ask these three questions before getting into any XYZ technology. It's not just related to blockchain. It's a general kind of three questions that I usually make sure that I am clear enough why I'm going into this direction. So that's just my personal opinion or a kind of my personal belief that I should know that, okay, why I wanted to be there and what could be the ways and who I am going to be. So as a part of this whole series, we are first going to explore the questions that is, who is a blockchain developer? So starting from, if you are just discussing about a blockchain developer, it is presumed for sure that you are well versed with the technology itself, or with the working of this technology, why it exists, why it came into the picture, what is this buzzword everywhere, and why this is booming a lot. So as a whole, it's being assumed that you should know what is the blockchain technology. So if you talk about the technology itself, the core functionality, or you can say the core features of it, you are well aware of it. So implementing and designing that whole blockchain network is something that a blockchain developer do as well, like how you design a whole network, how you implement and support a network also, and then coming towards creates and optimizes blockchain protocols. And the very last thing that you go with is how you develop dApps and smart contract applications on the blockchain network. It's very important to understand those terms. If we talk about the dApps, dApp is a kind of like distributed applications that we use these terms quite often when it comes to blockchain developer. You may have heard from someone like, okay, I'm looking for a dApp developer, someone who can develop a dApp for me. It's something like we are talking about applications that needs to be developed on the top of blockchain technology, and it could be any blockchain, like public or private, any blockchain. So that is very important. If you understand these kind of acronyms and you really know the meanings of these acronyms, that's also very that's something that matters a lot. So dApps is something that you are going to have those applications built on top of blockchain, and that's one of the part that blockchain developer do also. And then come towards the next part, that how do you develop these dApps using like writing some smart contracts using any programming languages that we'll be exploring in the few slides afterwards. So coming towards like how you write a smart contracts, what are those kind of programming languages that is needed for you to know and to be well versed with this, so you know the how you are going to make it technically feasible for your whole career and to get your next role. So coming towards what could be the type of blockchain developer you can be, because what we discuss is a quite a lot of different things. If you notice, the very first part that I mentioned was that how you can like designing the network, implementing and architecturing the solution, that's one part of it. Then we talked about another aspect of how you can like security and optimizing the whole app development, and then writing the smart contracts and developing the applications itself. So if you focus on the sides, it's being divided into two sections. One is a core blockchain developer who actually works into the underlying blockchain architecture, or you can say working on the consensus algorithm, that how these things going to be working. So that comes under the core blockchain developer. And then another part that's important is the blockchain software development, or you can say dApp developer, who is going to develop the application that's being used or that's being built on top of that blockchain technology. So if we talk about the whole blockchain development cycle, or you can say the layers, is you have one blockchain hosted on which you are going to develop your blockchain application. So first, you should be clear enough what kind of blockchain that you are going to adopt. It could be a public blockchain, it could be a private blockchain, or maybe a kind of hybrid somewhere, consortium or hybrid blockchain. And then coming towards finding the right talent for the type of blockchain that you are working on. Then that's the next part of where software developers, or where you can say developers in general, lies into. That's the next part of blockchain developers, that how you're going to write those smart contracts or kind of chain codes, and how you're going to make those applications work on top of blockchain. So when we talk about first thing, that is core blockchain developer, they are the one who are going to work on the core features of the blockchain network itself. So if you focus on the category of the blockchain that you will be selecting, let's say if you are going to go for the public blockchain, for Ethereum or kind of any application that you wanted to host on public blockchain, so that's a kind of different thing. You know your consensus, you know everything that's already running into the network. But when it comes to a private or enterprise-based blockchain, you have a quite different architecture. It's quite bulky, it's quite vast. Like you have to work around what kind of network you wanted to build into, how many organizations will going to participate into the network, what will be the consensus mechanisms that will be used, then how you're going to set up, like let's say if you're talking about hyperledger fabric, you have to architect the whole thing like participation of endorsing nodes and CAs, and let's say how its whole MSP is going to work, and then the consensus mechanism and how it is going to be committed to the ledger after going through this whole endorsement policy. So there is quite a lot of network part that needs to be done in terms of private or enterprise based blockchain, which is not that much required when it comes to any public blockchain. So the core blockchain developer are the one who is responsible for working on those side of how these network is going to be built into. So if you just explore a little bit about Hyperledger Fabric network administration, that's something, a separate role that's being required for the organizations who develop on top of Hyperledger Fabric. It's not that they expect the programmers to do the whole networking and whole architecting at the base layer, but they expect the network part is something that they expect someone else who have the required expertise in that aspect. So that where is the core blockchain developer come into, like when you talk about the architecture or working on this consensus algorithm and how you're going to set up the whole blockchain network. That is one part of the blockchain developer that you can be. Now, the next part, that when it comes to software development side, this is where the programming comes, like how you are going to develop your application that is going to work on the top of that specific blockchain. Let's say if I decided that I wanted to build an application that is going to be onto a public blockchain. So it's a public blockchain application. So I want a dApp for that. Like I want to build an application. So definitely you don't need to work onto that underlying core blockchain layer, setting up the network and these kind of stuff. What we usually do is that we directly go towards writing our smart contract logic. Once we understand the whole architecture, whole flow of our solution, that okay, what kind of smart contracts we are needed, at what stage we are needing that smart contracts, and what is the whole flow of information from one end to another end, and who are the participating entities and all these stuff. Once you have a very clear idea of that, you go into developing those applications in terms of writing your core code, core program into the core programming side. Then it comes to writing your smart contracts, and first you're going to use a test network, let's say. So you're going to host it on a kind of like test network for Ethereum, or then you are going to move into a mainnet. So that's a kind of things that's mostly on the side of blockchain developer, that how you are going to write your code, compile it, and deploy it itself onto the blockchain network. So coming towards that, what kind of responsibilities and the usual and the major responsibilities that needs to be covered by a blockchain software developer is smart contracts, writing the smart contracts, or you are required to develop the whole distributed applications. So the reason of mentioning this develops the distributed application is that just writing the smart contracts is not something you do only. You should know that about what will happen when you are going to deploy your network, and how you're going to check up all these gas fees and a lot of stuff that happen there once you deploy your smart contract onto the blockchain network. So that's where this blockchain software development come into. And then the last part of it, that how you work on this front and back end application. So we have a kind of some middleware APIs on which we work. Let's say if we are talking about specifically Ethereum-based development, we use a web3.js to interact with our smart contract and to talk to our front end also. So that is the library that you are expected to write the code and know that how you're going to interact with these two layers and act as a middleware, and how you're going to write that specific kind of HTML code which will link to your smart contracts easily. And the same thing that follows if you're talking about any other blockchain, let's say in terms of private blockchain. So in Hyperledger Fabric, when we are developing an application, for that middle layer specifically, we have different kind of SDKs that we use. that's being provided, let's say, by a Fabric SDK. So you are bound to be use like kind of Java SDK or Node SDK or any kind of new SDKs that being provided to them. Let's say Python is in line as well with them. So these are a lot of things that's also involved, that how your middleware will work to talk to a front end for your blockchain based application. That also comes under the blockchain development, or kind of how you're going to work as a software developer, or the core technical team for your blockchain development side. So coming towards that, how do you become a blockchain developer? Now, that's not a question that I am going to give you rigid answers on that, and that's something that you should follow. But I believe that, as I started in the earlier part of our video, that you should know answers of these questions by yourself. How you're going to do that, or what you want it to be, and who you want it to be, and what are the ways to be at this stage. So when it comes to how do you become a blockchain developer, so there are a few things that's being mentioned here. It's a few things I'm mentioning because it could be more than that. It definitely depends on the type of role that you are looking into, or on the type of organization that you are planning to like join in, or targeting to be the next employer for them. So it's quite you can say quite varied options, that how do you become a blockchain developer. But that's one of the, you can say, core answers that's everywhere if you found the ways of being a blockchain developer. So the very first part that's very important is the programming language, because as we discussed, the part of being a software developer is that you should know a kind of programming language of writing the code into the blockchain, into this blockchain whole network. So some of the programming languages that's being mentioned here, it's like Java, C++, JavaScript, Go, Python, and C Sharp. So as a whole, I would say that is very important for being a blockchain developer is you should be well versed about the basic programming paradigms and how a whole object-oriented programming work, like the base pillars of object-oriented programming. The reason is that's something quite similar when it comes to those programming languages. So if you talk about any of those programming languages, it's not something that you are expected to know all of them. Definitely, no one is not expert in all of these programming language. But if you are well versed with any one of them, let's say any two of them, you are expected to write your code or understand the main you can say main rules of writing any programming language, because you are already well versed with any one of, or any two of them. That's very important part, that this is the core of a programming language that you should know. Now, how it works into writing a blockchain based development, it's something that you are going to learn when it comes to any kind of blockchain development course or any kind of session that you will be joining. So that's something that you will be learning as an advanced aspect of it. But the base, if you know, you are that's going to help you a lot in terms of your next journey for the blockchain development. So coming towards the side of writing programming language, or the side of software development on top of any blockchain application, there is also one programming language that started with the smart contracts, or with the existence of Ethereum. It's Solidity. So Solidity developers are something that they are exclusively expert in writing this Solidity code or Solidity smart contracts. That is being said because Solidity itself is a contract-oriented language, okay? But if you just get yourself into, or if you just go through a little bit of how it works, or a journal view of it, you will notice a lot of things that is very common, and a lot of concepts that is very related to object-oriented programming. Like if you talk about how you create a class in object-oriented programming language. So that is the same thing that we follow, like how you create a contract in object or in Solidity itself. Then we have few of the concepts that's very much similar to it. We have inheritance in contracts. We have abstract classes, interfaces. Then we have a kind of aspect that how you encapsulate things, like the encapsulation aspect of it. So a lot of things, how you use a constructor also. So there are a lot of common things that is very much similar to what we already know in object-oriented programming language. So for those of you who are a kind of confident or kind of comfortable with any of the programming language that we just discussed, you will be able to understand Solidity very much easily. One of the different thing that you will find in Solidity is that how you are going to play around with a kind of wallets, with a kind of addresses, how it is maintaining connecting to a wallet or maintaining an address like say smart contract address itself, and then how it's going to hold some ethers. So there are a lot of things or some of the terms or keywords that is different when it comes to Solidity. And obviously, it is expected to be because that is something that makes it unique. So these are the things that is different when it comes to Solidity-based programming language. So if you are comfortable enough in writing Solidity-based code, or you can say you are well versed with any of the programming languages that is in OOP, that's object-oriented programming, you will ace the Solidity side very easily. So you can start understanding the concepts and writing those contracts in kind of Remix IDE, that is a browser-based tool. You don't need to install anything, and you can just start compiling and trying out your first smart contract very easily by just installing a kind of like MetaMask wallet or something. So that is the very core part of blockchain development side. First is the programming language. And then the very next part that I told you already, that is fundamentals of object-oriented programming language. So we know that how this is related to a blockchain-based development, that how you write a kind of functions, how you get the details for your users, and how you use some functions to send and receive payments, and let's say how you create an abstract contract, or there's a kind of how you write some interfaces for your contract. So some very of the concepts that we already know in object-oriented programming language, it's quite, you can say, similar to what we have in Solidity. Then we have a kind of flat and relational databases, or you can say that to understand the main concept that how that RDBMS work or the flat databases work in terms of, if you know this kind of file storage or data storage, you will be easily understanding that how we are talking about the importance of blockchain technology itself, and how important this technology itself. The reason is that if you talk about blockchain-based technology as a whole, it's just a kind of data structure, or you could say a technology which works on storing of data, that how do you store data, and then the architecture or the flow of storing the data, that is how it makes it different, that how you're going to store it. Like either it's in a distributed network, either it's in a kind of you have a ledger that is decentralized, there is no central authority. So these are some of the things, if you understand the main concept of flat or relational database, you will be easily understanding these kind of things about data structures and how it's being storing this data in terms of blockchain, and how it is unique to any other databases or any other data structures also. So one of the major things also that's written here is that you have to have some understanding about data structures, like let's say stacks, linked list, queues. So these are some of the data structures that we have. So if you understand some of them, that's very important, that it is linked to blockchain in the way that blockchain itself is also a chain of blocks that is linked together. Like it's a kind of linked list, and every block is containing the hash of previous block. So it is chained together. So kind of it is linked together. So it works in the same way that we have linked list. So that's one of the reason, if you understand those data structures, the way how blockchain works at its core of a data structure, it's going to be very easy for you, and you will be able to understand that how this works in a kind of data structure perspective. And then about some of the knowledge of web development, web app development. So that's a very common thing that when you talk about any kind of development side. So if you know that how web and mobile application works and how you create these applications, and apart from it, because the concepts that, let's say if you create a mobile applications and you have some, you want to expose some APIs to get data onto a mobile application, that's something very much same that we do in blockchain development also. So these are some of the concepts that you are being expected to know when it comes to becoming a blockchain development. So the very last part of this points that how do you become a blockchain developer is the peer-to-peer networking. That's something that I already mentioned in the type of how you understand the core concept of blockchain technology in terms of storing the data. And then it comes to the networking side, it's really important. Like let's say those of you who are coming from, let's say, a very old and very basics of computer science, you must have heard about client-server architecture. So what client-server architecture do? We have a server to which all the clients report to. For any of the requests, for any of the things, whatever being accepted or whatever being provided by the server, those clients receive and work on it, and they will be able to perform next steps on it. So client-server architecture is something that is centralized, like we don't have any relation with one client to another client, but all of those clients are linked to one server, or let's say more than one server, but those servers are the one who is controlling and who are the managing authority. But when it comes to a blockchain-based system, we don't have that aspect of centralization. It is a core decentralized network that's being also said as peer-to-peer networking. Why? Because all the peers talk to each other and can see the transactions, whatever others are seeing also. So that's the core part of blockchain development side. If you understand those terms, if you understand that how these things work, that is one of the major thing. And then we talk about some of the acronyms that's very important. Like let's say that is P2P. And one of the things that I mentioned earlier is dApps related to distributed applications. That's also very important. And very last, third acronym that I wanted to mention is DLT. So what is DLT? DLT is distributed ledger technology. So if you talk about a blockchain-based technology, or you are trying to understand this technology as a whole, you are expected to know that, okay, what is DLT itself? Because it is a very important question. Most of those who are just newly entered into this field, they know the core, they know the very advanced level of blockchain, but they are not well versed with this term that's said as DLT. It is a very important term. If you just focus on this term, it's an umbrella term. Like we have a lot of different technologies under DLT, and one of them is blockchain technology. So blockchain is a DLT, okay, but we have other technologies that comes under DLT as well. Let's say we have hash graph, we have directed acyclic graph, that is DAG. Then we have let's say we have another technologies that we work into. We have Hedera hash graph and blockchain, and many of those technologies that comes under DLT. It's very important to understand that the core of DLT is the ledger is distributed. Like it's going to work in a decentralized way, in a peer-to-peer manner. But how it's going to store the data, like the storage of the data, it's different. not all of those technologies store the data in blocks. So it's not all DLTs are blockchain, but at its core, the blockchain is a DLT itself. So that's a very broad and umbrella term that you should know as being a potential blockchain developer. Make sure that you are clear enough about these terms and you are well versed about where and why you are using these terms. So these are some of the prerequisites that we discuss, that okay, how you want it to be, how you do becoming a blockchain developer, what is a blockchain developer itself. I believe at this stage of this session, you are clear enough about two of this. What you want it to be, like who is a blockchain developer? So who is what you want it to be, like what could be your next role? And then how do you become a blockchain developer? So these are, as a whole, is just a core steps. And then you can extend your research, you can extend your plan and make your, you can say, whole journey, that how you wanted to reach a specific goal in terms of becoming a blockchain developer and getting yourself into this whole ecosystem. So let's move into the very next step, that says the very first step. If we have got all our prerequisites, that's clear, we know what we want it to be, we know how we are going to be at this stage. So the very first step, if you notice of this whole system, is the first thing that you understand the basics of blockchain. So to whoever usually asks me this question, I would say that as a whole, that's very important to you to understand and to go backwards to the point where this technology started. So for the blockchain, if we talk about the very first white paper, or you can say one of the white paper that started gaining the traction for this blockchain-based technology is Bitcoin. So what you do, you go towards this Bitcoin white paper and try to read it and try to grasp the whole concept, what's being written and why it came to in existence, and how this technology played an important role in the whole in this whole system that's being proposed in that white paper. And that stage, I wouldn't expect you to be a master of blockchain technology and even to be clear of all the terms that's written there. But after reading that specific white paper, you should be just clear enough what is this technology, what is the potential of this technology, and either I am interested or not. Like, let's say, either I am convinced with what this technology has done to this whole payments ecosystem and everything. So if you are a little bit clear enough at this side, you are very good to proceed further. And then what you do, you proceed further with about understanding the core terms or core concept of blockchain technology. Let's say we have different types of blockchains: public blockchain, private blockchain, then we have hybrid blockchain. So coming towards understanding the terms, if you understand the base term of blockchain, then you move forward with, let's say, public blockchain, that is Bitcoin. And after going towards Bitcoin, you go and check in the history, the next step and the next revolution came into the terms of Ethereum, how Ethereum came into, what was the reason for that, and how it changed the whole game of this blockchain ecosystem. So there you are going to explore a lot of things in terms of this blockchain based technology. The reason of that is that with Ethereum ecosystem, we had a lot of things that came into the picture which was not there earlier. We got the way that how you can automate your business process in terms of those smart contracts. And then using that smart contracts, the scope of this blockchain technology extended, and it is being explored that you can use this technology out of this payment ecosystem or out of this financial services. We have a lot of, you can say, potential of using it in different ways, or you can say in different use cases. So there come the potential and the power of this technology. And if you explore a little bit of the whole journey of Ethereum, you are going to find a lot of things that's very interesting. The tokenization aspect of it, the mining process, that how it changed up to the latest trend that we have in now in 2022. So that's very important part of the whole journey of learning these core of this blockchain based technology. And then coming towards the base, let's say hash, that how this cryptographic hash is used, how the system is secured, what's the kind of encryption that's being used. So you can go through and play around with some of the, you can say, demos and illustrations that's being provided, using that how your data is encrypted, how you cannot change a block and it will break the chain. So a lot of things that you can explore in at this step. And you know, okay, there is some mining that's being provided, some consensus that's happening, and the reason of that consensus also. And the next part of knowing, after knowing those kind of terms, is that how you explore these things, let's say Ethereum, Hyperledger, Hashgraph, or Corda, R3 Corda, that's very important as well, and other solutions that is built on top of layer 1 solutions. That's, let's say we have a lot of layer 2 solutions into the market now. But that's another very extended form of blockchain. So as a base, what we do is that you explore, starting with Bitcoin white paper, then you move toward Ethereum based blockchain, and then you go and explore a little bit of Hyperledger Fabric. And if you are at the stage of understanding Hyperledger Fabric, you can look up into the R3 Corda as well. So a lot of things you are going to explore in this whole journey, and you will going to understand the basics of this blockchain itself. So if you talk about this whole steps that we have in this whole system, in this whole systematic way, it is started from prerequisite. If you are done with prerequisites, we are now moved towards step 1 that we have already done, that says the concepts of blockchain. And the very next stage is that you understand the economics behind cryptocurrencies and blockchain-based technology. So that's the part that is very important. You understand the whole economics in the term of the usage of blockchain technologies in crypto world, and a lot of it on the side of how it works in terms of issuing some kind of tokens, and then we have token standards, how you write these tokens, and the important and the and you can say how the price is, how you're going to increase your price for tokens. And then we have the next era that we know that right now we just passed is this NFTs, that how NFTs came into the market and what is the best use case of it. So a lot of things you are going to explore in terms of security, that says hashing, that says a kind of hashing algorithm that's being used, and the digital signatures, knowing that how this works as a core, and then the consensus mechanism also. Let's say proof of work, proof of stake, why it's being used, or why there is some transaction that being happened from proof of work to proof of stake. Knowing the benefits and disadvantages for each of them, it's very important also. So that's one of the things that needed to be on the side of, you can say, more into the side of security, or more into the side of technical aspect of blockchain. The other part is that the economic side. On the economic side, we have the understanding that the miners, or you can say the validators who validate the transaction, are being incentivized. So it is very important for you to understand that how you are going to be like, is there some calculation that's being happening? It's something, some halving is done, and after that, what's going to happen if it's finished, the block reward is finished, so what's going to be happen with Bitcoin? So that's some of the questions that if you explore, that's going to have some, you can say, some interesting facts that you are going to explore in this whole journey. Along with it, it's very important that you try to understand about private blockchain also. If you are exploring it, try to going to as a whole, not just go through towards public blockchain and you don't know the difference between private and public. So if you're talking about private blockchain, you should try to explore a little bit what happens with the validators who validate the transaction in a private blockchain. So who is being rewarded, what kind of reward is being given. So you can read out some of the use cases or some of the success stories and case studies that's been published to, let's say, onto the official website of Hyperledger Fabric or Linux Foundation, or official website of Ethereum Foundation itself. So a lot of things that you are going to find out on their own official website. And for further, you can say, latest up-to-date trends and happenings into the industry, you can watch out to some of the videos, let's say, and videos in terms that what's being happening and what's being announced by their like say co-founders, founders, or any of the speakers who participated into the conference, because that's also very one of the interesting part of the conferences. If you join that, or if you follow some of the blockchain latest conferences, some of the very biggest you can say announcements or biggest change that's been happening into the ecosystem, they announce usually there into the conferences also. So you can follow up to the conference to understand and to you can say follow the trends, what's happening into the industry as well. So the very next step, that is how to understand how cryptocurrencies work. That is also very important. The reason is that when it comes to the blockchain based ecosystem, it started with the very first use case is the financial use case, is how you can eliminate a middleman and do some transaction peer to peer. Let's say Alice and Bob, they don't need anyone in between, and they can do the transactions without any one of them. So that's very much important to know that if we are removing the middleman, who is going to do our transaction then? Definitely, we do have at the core, we have this blockchain based system, let's say blockchain, Bitcoin, who is going to do this transaction for us. And if you just go backward in terms of the middleman, we are going to have some validator or miner who's going to mine our transaction. But things are a lot of things that are changed when it comes to peer-to-peer transaction when it compared to the traditional and current system of current banking system or financial system that we have. So that's very important to understand how this cryptocurrency system works. If you send the money from one account to another account, let's say in terms of ethers, or not only in ethers, if you are trying to do some transactions and you are having, let's say, some tokens or something, then you will be able to do this transaction very quickly, and you will be able to understand it very quickly how this thing is very different to the traditional system that we have. So that is also one of the very important step of this 4 steps or 5 steps journey. So you start with the concepts of blockchain-based technology, and then you understand the economics behind it, in which you explore the kind of like security aspect of it, the cryptographic algorithms that's being used, and who will be rewarded and how the reward will be done, and then how you understand that how these cryptocurrencies work, and the last thing is that you're getting on some hands-on experience. And then when it comes to now at this stage, at the 4th stage, I believe you have a clear idea about the technology. You know the strong use case of this whole technology so far that we have. You are well versed with the technical terms that is being used in this whole, you can say, in this whole technology, or what kind of consensus or encryption or encryption algorithms or mining, why it's being happening, and the whole flow. Okay. And if you are clear enough at this stage, you are now able to getting yourself onto some hands-on or onto some coding aspect of it. So for this kind of writing some programming and some smart contract, you are now able to start your journey as a blockchain developer. So this stage is very important for a kind of how you are going to select what kind of programming languages that you want to be, like what kind of blockchain development you want to be. Let's say it's private blockchain, public blockchain, and then you will decide that, okay, I want to write a smart contract, or I want to write a chain code in Hyperledger Fabric. That's also the choice that you made initially. And then you write your smart contract, and you know that, okay, if let's say you are writing it on Ethereum based blockchain, you are going to publish it on Ethereum based network. So let's say in terms of test network or in terms of mainnet, you can publish it on the Ethereum based blockchain. And then let's say one of the major thing that's written into the whole journey, what I appreciate, it's not that you do the work from your end and you expect the things to happen like magically from the employer end or from the end of hiring you. What is the best way is that if you make something, if you have coded something, even it's a very small application, try to uh, show off to it to others that what you have made. By showing off means that you can convince other that you have the right talent that is required for this specific programming language. It could be in any way, like it could be like either you go for having your own GitHub profile, maintain your own GitHub whole GitHub portfolio that you can provide to others. So that's a kind of all your programs they're written. You have all your files that you can provide to others just to know that, okay, what kind of smart contracts that you can write. But also you can write some articles out of it. Let's say if you are writing a code in Solidity programming language and you came up with an issue of how you're going to, like, you explored some different ways of error handling. Like you have different functions in Solidity, right, for error handling. And from your own experience, you find out some amazing way of doing error handling in Solidity that saves some gas fees, and you believe that's a better solution out of what you have been already being provided over the internet. What you can do, you can write a complete whole article on it on the basis of, okay, this is my personal finding in my whole journey. I found out this is the best way, and I encountered these issues, and to resolve this kind of problems, I tried fixing it in this way. I wrote this code, and that's how it worked. So what will happen? Others will know your problem solving skills, your skills of writing a good and solid smart contract. That's very important. So never underestimate the line of code that you have written or the application that you have created. It might be very small for you, it might be something that's not convincing for you, but for other, or let's say to others that who are looking up to as a candidate for you, as a candidate to you, maybe it's going to be something that's very big for them. So try posting whatever you have learned, whatever you have made. You can also do some participation in hackathons. Let's say you can participate and team up with others and create some very, you can say, convincing and solid application in a hackathon. That's also going to add on a lot in your portfolio, and that's also it's very valuable when it comes to being this whole blockchain development journey. So it's not something that I would say only in blockchain development journey, but for any of the development side, it's very important that until you create something, you are not going to learn it in that way. So try getting your hands dirty as early as you can. And then once you are at this stage that you created a solid application, you can just go and post it somewhere and create and maintain your own portfolio so that you will be able to portray to others what you have made. Okay. And then that is very important again. I would say the whole blockchain ecosystem or this whole blockchain based technology, it's evolving very fast. So the developments or the happenings in this industry, it's very quick that you don't know that when what will happen. So the very important part is that you keep yourself updated with whatever being happening. It's not about just keeping yourself updated. Let's say who adopted Hyperledger Fabric for their problem, or which bank adopted R3 Corda and they are working on a solution with partnering with, let's say, Swift is now working with blockchain-based technology. It's just the high level that you should know. But at the core, you should be knowing what's happening inside of this blockchain industry itself. one of the very common and latest trending news that we had in the past few weeks is the merge that happened in Ethereum from proof of work to proof of stake, and how they merged this whole layers in the Ethereum ecosystem. So the reason of understanding and keeping an eye and keeping yourself updated is that this technology is evolving very fast, and even the solutions and the startups that's being built into it, it's quite you can say quite quick. You cannot expect anything to happen maybe into the next few weeks, but there's some very amazing happenings or amazing startups that's being built upon on top of, let's say, any financial ecosystem, or for any industry. So try to keep yourself updated, and how you do that, so it's up to you. You can follow some of the latest trending articles that's publishing some news on blockchain, or you can also just find out some of the solid connections on LinkedIn and get connected with them, follow them on Twitter, so that you know the latest news, what's happening there. And that's one of the reasons that's important that you visit and write some articles, visit the blogs as well, and be a part of this ecosystem. Always make sure to put your input, to add your input wherever you feel you can. Let's say if today, after today, you know that okay, I wanted to be a blockchain developer, and you are looking for some of the articles, and you have a quick thought that okay, no, this is how it should be, no, I believe that this ecosystem is like growing, so scalability is something that's very important or something, you can put whatever you know and whatever your thoughts into a comment. Don't ever feel shy, because that's how you are becoming to a part of this whole ecosystem. Now, the very important part is what we will be discussing next, because how you become a blockchain developer, we discussed it. And then comes to what kind of obstacles do you face when it comes to learning blockchain-based technology. So coming towards the part is that how difficult or easy this programming language is, something that related to what kind of issues you face. Okay. So first of all, that's very common, and I believe it's most of us face this issue, that the outdated content. Let's say if you are working on Solidity based programming language, and if you are reading and following an article, but it was written for a very old version of Solidity compiler version, but you have followed the whole exact program, and your program is not working on that latest version because maybe something has changed and they've made it work in another way for the latest version. So this is very important. The content that you are following must be latest. It's not a very old content that you are following, or it's not something that you can say already outdated. Okay, so that's very one of the obstacles that we would say into the Solidity or into the blockchain based journey, is that the tutorials you follow or the content that's being written there, maybe the issue is being resolved already, but you are following some content, some tutorial that's very old. And one of the second aspect is very common again, is the lack of quality content. Okay, so the major thing is that most of the places where you will see that, okay, you will be a blockchain developer in 6 weeks, in 2 weeks, you will be a smart in 4 hours videos. So a lot of videos that you will be able to see that. It's not that they will not give you the right content, they will definitely give you. But the quality content is very important. And also, after getting this content, what you do afterwards is also very important. So the investment from your side as a learner or as a potential developer in this field is still there. Don't just expect things to happen in a magic way once you follow a tutorial and you believe that, okay, I created this application, now I am a master and I look forward to the opportunities and I believe I will be getting hired somewhere. Hopefully you will be, definitely, but how you can make your place in the industry is that you try to create something and then make some updations on it. Let's say now we have a lot of layer 2 solutions also, so try to explore many of those solutions, or many of those, you can say some of the SDKs that's into the system, or some of the tools that's now just came into in this whole blockchain based development side. So that's also very important for you to learn from a quality content, not from old content. Now, that's another very, you can say, one of the very attractive part of blockchain-based development is the salary of a blockchain developer. So coming towards the average, how much a blockchain developer earns is something around, if we talk about in USD, it's different definitely. So it starts from 100K per annum. Okay, it's just a starting. I wouldn't say it's an average, but it's more of a start. But it definitely depends upon the size of company that where you are looking for and where you are aiming to. Let's say for a startup, it's going to be a different, or a kind of a big organization is going to offer you a different rate. But when it comes to blockchain-based development to any other core tech development, let's say .NET or C# or even just Java as well, we have a slight difference in the range of the salary that's being provided. So the blockchain-based developer or blockchain developer is usually highly paid. And one of the core reason is not that the technology is booming only, but also the supply and demand thing. When you talk about the blockchain ecosystem or blockchain-based developers, the supply itself is like very small, and the demand it's like very huge. So if we talk about the demand outgrows the supply a lot. So demand is growing very rapidly, but the supply of the development or the supply of the developers is not very high. That's why it's one of the highest paid when it comes to any of the development side of into this whole software development side. So which companies and how companies are using blockchain-based technology? Again, that's a very common thing. That's IBM, Microsoft, and they are using in a different way, let's say for trade finances. And we have some countries that they are using, let's say Australia and Estonia is very famous. You can explore a little bit about Estonia's case study, how they have revolutionized their whole health ecosystem, the smart card that they have for their citizens or for the residents. And then we have a lot of things that's also evolved in Dubai also with their Smart Dubai initiative. They have gone paperless with the initiative of paperless Dubai. So a lot of things that's happening in different regions. It's not just one or two countries. Most of the countries, China has also used this technology in a lot of different ways. So you can explore with how these technologies work in different countries and different companies, just to have a better understanding of the potential of this technology. And if you are convinced enough that, okay, this technology is very booming and the support from the government is very high, then you are satisfied what you are doing and where you are investing your time. That's very important. And you are motivated enough, you are going on a right track, you will be able to do it very easily and very happily. So that's a little bit of what we can discuss in our today's session related to how you can be a blockchain developer, who is a blockchain developer, and what are the steps to becoming a blockchain developer. So this is about our today's session, but we have different courses in our Simplilearn course as well, in our Simplilearn training programs that you can follow and that you can look up to. So you will be able to understand better of what's being provided by Simplilearn as for this blockchain-based technology. So I wish you all very good luck. Thank you so much for sparing your time for this video. In case of any comments and questions, just feel free to post it on this Simplilearn YouTube channel, and the team will be able to get back to you on the queries that's being posted. Thanks a lot for joining in. We'll come back for another video. Thank you.
Hi there, if you like this video, subscribe to the Simplilearn YouTube channel and click here to watch similar videos. To nerd up and get certified, click here.